Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for tonight's Building Better Business Practice Management webinar series. Tonight's topic is a quick start guide to telehealth for acupuncturists with President of Acupuncture Media Works, Jeffery Grossman. So thank you everyone for joining us. Before we start, I wanted to just acknowledge all of you that are viewing us. We have gone through interesting couple of months, not only as individuals in our personal lives, but as a community as a whole. And depending on where you are in the world, a lot of us have had to close our clinic doors. We're having to revamp, see how to pivot our companies and still practice our passion for our medicine. And so I just want to give you all just a big shout out. I know that you're probably all stressing out. I have a bunch of more gray hair. I know you can't see it, but I have way more than I would like for my age. And you know, we're all doing our best, and I know that you guys out there are also doing your best. And that's why you're here with us tonight for this topic. Jeffery has been amazing at doing webinars with us since last year, everything focused on marketing. He has been a tremendous support for all our acupuncturists here in our Florida community, and I'm sure for those of you out there in different states. So before we begin with Jeffery, just wanted to do some housekeeping. I'm going to be here with you guys all night. I have started doing telemedicine, which is super cool. It's actually been very freeing, and I'm sure that Jeffery is going to inspire you guys and reinvigorate you if you're still on the fence on that. So first, let's go ahead and discover the chat box. I know that many of you have joined me before, but for those of you that haven't, if you look at the bottom of your screen, whether you are on your phone or your computer or your laptop, there is a little chat icon. So why don't you go and click on that and then just type in the city that you're in. So I am in Miami, Florida. It's been dreadfully rainy here. And Jeffery, where are you right now?
I am typing that in. We're in Bellingham, Washington.
Nice. And we have someone from Owings Mills, Maryland.
Nice.
Welcome.
I envy you guys who are near the water and the beaches. I'm swimming is my sport, and I cannot swim because the gym.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's tough. Yeah, we love the water down here. But unfortunately, our beaches are still closed. So,
right. Okay.
Yeah, we're all suffering. And we have someone else from Laurel. Great, wonderful. So the chat box is where you guys are just going to interact, share comments. If you have resources and you're inspired to share them here in the chat box. And then your questions, I want you to type them into the Q&A icon, and that's also at the bottom of your screen. And if you just click on that, you should be able to type in your question. Now, I do ask you to be as specific as possible because we're going to hold the questions until the end of the presentation. Is that correct, Jeffery?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. If there's something that comes up during the middle of it, feel free to interrupt. I'm fine with interruptions.
Okay. All right. So just be very specific with your question. And then I believe you can all of you can see each other's questions, so you can upvote it. So you don't have to repeat the question over. But if you see someone that has already submitted your question and you really want us to focus on that one, upvote it. And we'll definitely address all the questions as much as possible with the time that we have today. So that is enough of my ranting for tonight. Also, I didn't introduce myself. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Natalia Morrison, and I am the Communications Director for FASOMA. All right, so I'm going to turn off my mic and my video, and Jeffrey, the floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Natalia. I really appreciate showing up for you guys for these trainings that you're putting on. So FASOMA has been really amazing at putting on these events. I'm not sure if my screen, if people can see me or if they can see the FASOMA logo there. So
no, they can see you. I
okay.
put a spotlight on you.
Great. Oh, I got the spotlight on me. That's so great. So yeah, so thanks again for inviting me here. It's really a privilege to be here and to be able to contribute and to add to what you guys are already doing for your community. And I know that you guys are doing the best that you can. And I know that Natalia and I had a little bit of a chat just prior to this about different ways to brainstorm how to make membership from FASOMA way better. And maybe there's some interesting things that will come out of that. But those of you that are not members, I encourage you to do so, because your state associations are there to protect you and to, they got your back. So, and one of the things that they're doing is they're inviting people like myself to join you, to put on trainings and webinars. My expertise is in business and marketing. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jeffery Grossman, and I am the owner and creator behind Acupuncture Media Works and AcuPerfect websites. So we make marketing materials and brochures and education cards and even websites for acupuncturists. So my background before becoming an acupuncturist is advertising, marketing, and business. So that was my world before doing, becoming an acupuncturist. And now I've blended both of them, and I call myself a graphic acupuncturist or a graphic needler, whatever it is that you want to call me. But as Natalia was referring to, that these are no ordinary times, right? Business is not like it used to be in the past. And you've got two options that you could deal with right now. Option one is to pretty much do nothing about that, right? And just sit back and hope that when this whole crazy COVID thing ends, that your practice will be able to start up. Or option two is to do something and some things in your practice to get your practice further along, to stay in top of mind awareness with your current patients and potential future patients, so that when this ends, and it's going to end, I don't know when, but when it ends, that you are ahead of the slow practice game, right? So I don't want you to have to start from scratch after 2 months of not being in practice. And many of you are probably really fearful of needing to do that. But I'm going to be talking about a few things today that you could actually put into use into your practice right now, even though you're not in practice, to get in top of mind awareness with your patients. And also, we're going to obviously be talking about telehealth. And telehealth is really important for multiple reasons, because it allows you to provide flexible care options for your patients, and it allows you to support outcomes of patients that you've been working on. Because regardless of whether or not you're seeing patients, some of them, like before COVID happened, they had back pain and allergies or infertility issues and so on, and they didn't mysteriously just go away after you had to close your practice. They're still present with people. So having telemedicine allows you to sort of support their health and potentially improve patient outcome by hosting some telemedicine classes. No one has to leave the house. You can meet your clients in real time, and potentially you can also maximize revenues in these strange times. So put it in the chat box. I want to know who is using telehealth right now. Yes, telehealth, put that in there. Or no, telehealth, put that in there, okay? And also put in the chat box, what is the biggest thing that you want to get out of today's training, all right? So a couple pieces of housekeeping. Turn off your phones, close any tabs, take out a pen, take out some paper, because I respect your time and it's important. This information that I'll be sharing with you is really important. And at the end of today's training, if you feel like, I will be answering some questions. And if you feel like you might need any more help or some motivation moving forward, just, feel free to reach out to me. I'll give you my email address at the end of today's training, and a way to reach me if you feel like you need to move on, and a little kick in the butt to keep your wheels grinding and your practice momentum moving along. So we're all in this together. Every single state right now has been closed, and many of them are reopening now. And it's going to take a little bit of time to get things back to normal. Things aren't just going to jump back in normalcy overnight. So my suggestion is don't stagnate, move that energy, get out there now, whether or not you're actually physically getting out there, but make sure you get out there in one way or the other that is going to be in front of your patient's awareness. And the way that I'm suggesting today to do that is to offer telehealth sessions. So let me just take a look at this. No, 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 not yet, not yet. Yes, yes, telehealth. Okay, so most of you are not using telehealth right now, so good. So great. So what I'm going to share with you right now today is going to be some information that will hopefully allow you to get up and running in telehealth and give you some tips and some tidbits and some knowledge so you can make things happen with you. And I also am going to share with you something that is pretty much brand new, because I get a lot of questions out there like, what could I be doing with telehealth? And I'm going to review a bunch of different ideas, but I'm also going to share with you a resource that we just put together that that you can use and repurpose this material during your telehealth sessions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Can I? It says I'm going to share my screen here. Natalia, can you give me access to that? Screen sharing. Okay, great, got it. Okay, good. Okay, so I think you guys can see my screen over here right now. Hopefully it is big enough for you guys to see, okay? So this is the quick start guide to telehealth for acupuncture professionals. And the first thing, there's a few steps that I want to walk you guys through. And step one is make sure that you find the right patients, okay? So one of the first things that you should be doing is making a list of your A patients, okay? And your A patients are the people that you love, that you could reinvent a whole entire practice just on these people. You want to clone them, right? When you see them on your schedule, your energy just resonates and it goes up, compared to your C patients, or the patients that, kind of, pull your chi down and make you like, oh, you're not so gravitating towards wanting to work with them, okay? So first thing to do is to make a list of all of your A patients and call your patients about the offerings that you are going to be offering. And we'll be talking about some of those offerings right now in a little bit later on. But one of the things I encourage you guys to do is, as we are talking and as I'm talking with you today, please take some of these ideas and put them to use, okay? For someone's really been putting this class on for you, and I want you to get things out of this so your time is actually being used efficiently. So the next thing to do is to let them know that you are there for them and that you're taking this seriously and that you have the proper precautions in place, and that if they're struggling with XYZ problem, let them know. Let them know what you are offering right now through telehealth. And again, we'll talk a little bit about more of that later on. And then the next thing to do after you identify your patients and you reach out to them, follow up with them with an email. And in my mentoring group that I host monthly, one of the things that we've been working through with some of the mentees is how to reach out to your patients. That's been coming up a lot. The thing that I want to encourage you all to do is, when you have your list of your A patients, is to give them a phone call, okay? So you probably have a little bit of extra time in your hands now, so you could probably pick up the phone and call them. And when you're picking up the phone and calling your A patients, they are excited to hear from you, right? Those are the ones that love you back the same way you love them. So call them up and say something really simple like this. Hey, Jeffrey, I'm just calling you up. I'm really concerned about you and your family, and I just wanted to just check in and see how you're doing. How are you guys doing over there? Let Jeffrey respond, and they'd be like, hey, Jeffrey, I want to let you know that, since I can't see you in person right now, that I moved my practice to telehealth until I'm able to open. And I've got these different offerings that are available. And I know that, we've been working on particular problems that you've had in the past, and I might be able to help you with them via telehealth using some visualization techniques, or teaching you some acupressure points, or even reviewing some dietary therapy, or even suggesting some herbs that might be helpful with you. That's it. Simply just call them up and talk to them. Ask them how they're doing. Let them know what your offerings are, and then follow up with them with an email. Okay. And then, of course, when you're on the phone with them, you want to ask them if they are ready to set up an initial telehealth session with them. Okay. The next thing to do is step 2 is what technology do you use? Well, the truth is I've reviewed so many different types of technologies because I put this class on, I think 3 times already. And I've reviewed 4 different technologies, and I value your time, and I don't want to review all of the other technologies. I just want to cut to the chase as to which one I think is the most appropriate and most effective for you guys. And it's called Doxy.me. Okay. It's a really great platform. Your patients do not have to download any software on their end. All they do is simply click on a link and they join you. Okay. It features texting. You can share your screen. You can collect payments. There's there's a free version and obviously a paid version. In the free version, you get a little less of the features that are available. And also, one of the things I don't like about the free version is that the quality of the video is not that great. Okay. So I would encourage you guys to upgrade to the next level, because you get all the other features and all the high definition video features as well. And I think that's really important, because you want to look professional to your patients, and you want to come off as professional as possible. It's very easy to use. The other drawback is there's no electronic health records attached to that, and there's no online scheduling. There are other softwares out there that do have that, if you guys are interested in what those other ones are, feel free to reach out to me at the end of the training, or and I can just send you some information. But again, I value your time, and I want to present you with the options I think are the best options to choose from. Okay. And when you set up your telehealth, here is your checklist. Okay. Make sure that the internet is hardwired. Okay. Preferably hardwired, so you're not wireless, because when you're wireless and then, your neighbors or your friends or your family are getting online as well, it's going to slow down the internet traffic, and you're going to be choppy, and you're going to be talking like a robot. Okay, so hardwire is preferred. Make sure you're either working on your computer, preferably, or even your iPad. Make sure the lighting is good. Okay, so you want to have good lighting, and that's really important, because if I go ahead and just turn off my lights over here, okay, I'm just going to do this really fast. Right. Changes me around quite a bit. Okay. I'm not as professional, and I'm not as cool as I was last time. Right. So lighting is really important. And I'm going to go turn my lights back on, because I want to look as professional with you guys as possible. And so that's one really important aspect that the people in my mentoring group we work with, is setting them up for telehealth sessions. So lighting is important. Okay. Make sure you either have a really good microphone, something like this, might be a little over the top for you guys, or even a headset with a mic on it. But having your patients hear you is really important, because if I take this mic and stick it all the way over there, I sound a little different to you guys, right? I sound a little further away, and you don't want to sound that way. You want to be as professional sounding as possible with your patients. Did you guys hear a difference when I moved the mic away? I imagine you did. Feel free, if you want to put in the chat box, yes, you sounded different. So And the other thing too is to deal with an embedded camera on your computer, or even an external camera. And I'm going to share with you some examples that are really important. Right now, this is an external camera that I have plugged into my computer, which is a little bit more of a professional high definition camera that can be used. And the important thing is to make sure that you test your tech, okay? Last thing you want to do is to teach telehealth sessions and your tech isn't working, and you know, it just doesn't show up well, you know? So make sure you check everything and test it twice. So your patients have a telehealth checklist too, and that's to make sure that they have a computer, an iPhone, or an iPad with a camera as well. You make sure that they have, you know, a microphone. Also suggested they're, you know, the best way, you know, try to figure out an easy way for them to connect, and the best way is without having them to download any software. And that's why I suggested doxy.me. And then prepare your patients prior to your telehealth sessions so they know what to expect when you meet up with them, okay? So again, your patients, you're not gonna be able to control their computer, you're not gonna be able to control their lighting, you're not gonna be able to control their microphone, but you can make sure that the tech end is really simple and straightforward for them. But what you can do is you can have this checklist here. You could create a document that you can share with your patients that says, hey, here's a checklist that I'd love for you to go through prior to us meeting. Make sure there's good lighting because I want to check out your tongue. You know, make sure the camera is, I can see you and that you're visible. And make sure that I could hear you and you don't sound like you're a mile away from the microphone. Okay, so those are some important things to be dealing with when the tech. Lighting is really important. Like I said, this is a ring light, and literally you can take your iPhone and stick it on there, or an iPad and stick it on there, or simply just use the light itself. Basically, it's a round light, and it's a fluorescent bulb that literally shines on you and in front of you. Okay, it really lights up the front of you. One thing that's really important is to make sure that you're lit up on the front and you don't have all these shadows that are going on in your face, okay? This on Amazon is between like $40 to $70 to make that happen. Using a microphone, there are USB microphones like this one that I have listed over here. This one just plugs right in. It's called the Fifine mic. There's also the TK Go mic and the Logitech headphones. These are really good, solid headphones. You'll look like an airplane pilot with those, but they're really good. And they're all USB, so they plug right into your computer. And again, test your tech. My wife was hosting a Zoom call today, and 5 of the people on the Zoom call did not have their technology set up, and they're like, I cannot hear you. And they're trying to get on, I can't get their camera lit and everything. And that's the last thing you want to do is when you are doing your telehealth sessions, okay? And then this is the camera that I suggest. Prior to COVID, this camera was only $99, but right now, one, I think you cannot find this on Amazon. It's a Logitech C920, and it's $200 now. So talk about people trying to make some extra money during this crazy crisis. Yeah, they're doing it, right? This is a really good camera. This is the camera that you guys are actually seeing me on right now, and it's I really think it's a solid camera. I bought this camera for everyone on my team because you know, I think it's better than the computer camera here too. Okay, so that is some ideas around the technology there. Step 3 is setting up your office space. And this might sound like oh yeah, sure, I'm gonna set up my office. No worries, I got this. But here's a couple of things I want you to keep in mind when you're doing that. One is privacy, okay? You need to make sure that you select a space for your appointments that's private, because you wanna make sure that no one else can hear the conversation between you and your patient. And it's true, though, that that the Office of the Civil Rights has relaxed their HIPAA enforcement laws for the time of the COVID crisis, which means they are allowing other platforms outside of HIPAA compliant platforms to be able to be used. And they're doing it because they realize that there is a great need for medical professions to be doing telehealth, and they also understand that there is a lack in HIPAA requirements, HIPAA accountability that might not be embedded into some softwares. I know that Zoom is something that's able to be HIPAA required now, but if you go to the Office of Civil Rights, if you type in Office of Civil Rights and type in HIPAA requirement laws, don't do it now. do it later. You'll be able to read up on the latest and greatest news about their privacy policies. And I believe that they are still relaxed on the HIPAA laws, but still take them seriously. Make sure that you're not in your kitchen, not your kitchen table, and your kids are playing across from you when you're talking about your loose stools with your patients, okay? So the other thing is to make sure the noise level is pretty relaxed. Make sure that you ensure there's no distracting noises during your appointment, and this includes doorbells, televisions, lawnmowers, or whatever you can think of. Try again to keep it as professional as possible, and let your family know, or whoever it is, know that you're actually going to some telehealth sessions with patients, and that you hope that they can respect some silence for a short period of time. The other thing is visual distractions. Make sure your background isn't too busy, right? Have a plain colored wall, or some simple things behind you so your patients aren't distracted. I know that whenever I'm on a webinar or a Zoom call and people have these libraries of books behind them, I'm trying to read the titles of the books out there. So I'm distracted and I'm not paying attention. So try to keep it as simple as possible behind you. And the other thing to think about is to make sure that behind you is not a light or a light source or a window, because that is going to put shadow on the front of you, and that's going to put weird highlights behind you as well. So keep that in mind. Lighting, maintain a consistent lighting throughout your appointment. Don't have a window behind you because your face will have a shadow on it. Make sure your face is well lit from the front with one of those ring lights, and that you're in the middle of the camera as opposed to talking over here. You want to be in the frame where you're talking to your patients, as opposed to somewhere off to the side, or even you're down low like this. You don't want to be doing that. If you do happen to have a window behind you, make sure there's some dark curtains that you can pull closed, again, to limit the shadows and to focus the lighting on you, okay? And attire, keep your dress professional. Even if you're not leaving your house, consider wearing normal practice attire, like a nice button-down shirt, maybe even a lab coat, and just keep yourself as professional looking as possible. Try not to show up with a t-shirt and a hoodie, okay? Again, because your patients, you are a doctor in their eyes. They are coming to see you, they respect you, they understand you, and you are disseminating information to them. Show up as professional as possible to those telehealth appointments. And then the other thing is to make eye contact, okay? And this is really important because right now, like, let's say, if you guys can see my face, I don't know if you can, I think you can. If right now I'm looking down at my screen over here, and I'm, and I'm talking to you, and when I look down at the screen, and I'm, if I'm looking at the slides over here, it doesn't feel as genuine as if I'm looking right at the camera, okay? And I know it's weird, and I do this all the time whenever I'm in webinars. I'm staring at this lens that's lit up over here, and there's a blue light on it, and I'm just looking at this lens and assuming that there are people behind that lens on the other side. So make sure that you maintain eye contact during your appointment, and this is important. You want your clients to feel as though that you have that they have your full attention, and avoid looking at your phone, or avoid looking down, or typing some notes and stuff like that. But if you do that, if you're actually inputting a note in your EHR, then let them know. Be like, hey, Jeffrey, I want to let you know that you'll see that I'm typing during this time, and I'm not ignoring you, and I'm not sending an email. I'm actually taking notes as we're doing this, because I want to make sure that I capture everything that we're talking about here today. So let them know about those kinds of things, okay? Step 4 is prepping for your session, all right? So there's some insurance companies that are covering for telehealth sessions. And these are a few questions that, I'm sorry, 4 questions. I'm gonna change this right now. 4 questions to ask insurance companies before you are going to be billing them for insurance. How do you document your services? What billing codes do you use to get paid? And find out if you need to use a 95 or a GT modifier for that. Do they reimburse for both phone calls and video telehealth? And what is the reimbursement? So those are 4 questions that are really important to be asking the insurance companies prior to you meeting their patients. So let's say you have, you're going to start launching telehealth, and you know that you have certain patients that are, Blue Cross Blue Shield patients. Reach out to Blue Cross Blue Shield prior to meeting them, and ask him these questions. Find out what, you know, all this stuff beforehand, so you've got this knowledge ahead of time. And one of the things that you could even do to announce this, well, I'll say that for later because it's coming up soon in a second. Okay. And then make sure that you check your state laws and you learn about reimbursement policies as to what you can expect. And these are some sources that you could be learning about. Let me just copy these and I'll just stick them in the chat for you guys. Chat, I can't do that right now while I'm sharing my screen. But these sources are important for you to kind of figure out what, you know, what's up with your state laws. So check out these sources over here. I can add them in later on. And also prepare your document. If consent is required in your state, get it before your appointment begins. And this site here is the official AmericanTelemed.org site, and they have telemedicine forms that you can use and access. And I also think that the AAC, the AAC put out a return to practice COVID form. So that's something entirely different because we're dealing with telehealth right now.
Sorry, if you want to send me the PDF, your presentation and all those resources after the webinar, we can put them up on our website so people can just click and download them.
Got it.
As a resource.
Okay, will do. All right. And then step 5 is what services will you provide? Okay, so patients are going to need to learn how to stay calm. They're going to need to like know how to eat well while they're at home, how to cope with this new level of stress, how to get a good night's sleep, how to understand how to navigate their new life and their career. And also what's not listed here is how to manage particular symptoms and signs that they may still have, okay? Patients still need to know this kind of stuff, and you guys have this magic at the ends of every single needle, or in this case, every single tidbit of knowledge that you can share with your patients, right? Like if I was to ask you guys right now, what acupressure points would you share with patients to help them alleviate stress and anxiety? Put that in the chat box. I want to know which points would you share with patients to alleviate stress and anxiety. Also, let's just think. If patients were having a hard time sleeping, what acupressure points would you share with them? Okay, so these are all different kinds of things that you can be doing with your patients starting tomorrow. Okay, and a couple of things that you could be offering them would be tongue diagnosis. You could discuss about different conditions. You could do herbal consultations, pain relief solutions at home, check up accountability services. You can teach exercises like Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, acupressure therapy. You could do some follow-ups for treatments, stress management, meditation, nutrition, self-care with acupressure, hot and cold packs, ear seats, and even decision-making. So these are all different types of assessments that you could be offering during your telehealth sessions, okay? And I also want to share with you how to use one piece of content on multiple channels. Now, whether or not this is whatever content pieces that you could be using on your practice, you know, a lot of people are like, what should I be using? What should I be teaching? Well, this is going to be one piece of content I'm going to share with you that I was alluding to earlier today that you could be using on multiple channels. And this is called a to the point, done for you, multi-purpose acupuncture engagement bundles and marketing system. Okay, so we just put this thing together and we released it to our. Actually, we did a soft release to a people on a webinar that I did a couple weeks ago, and it was a huge success. And I just want to share with you how you could use one piece of content with your patients. So this marketing bundle comes with all these different tools. And whether or not you use what we put together or you create it yourself or you find resources online, this is what you could be teaching with your patients. You could be teaching them the location of these acupressure points. You could be teaching them how to locate the points, what they're good for, how to rub the points. You could be teaching them about, you know, specific things about getting better night's rest. Okay, this one is specific on immune health and self-care techniques. Excuse me, on immune health. There's also I think there's 11 pages to this document here, and they're not all listed here, but you could talk about herbs. There's nutritional therapy. There's food therapy. There's specific self-care techniques that you could be offering. So each one of these pages is a training in and of itself. Each one of these could be a Zoom training or a meeting that you would be offering for your patients. Hey, Jeffrey, I want to teach you about how to stay healthy with your immune system during these crazy times. And you would literally walk them through specific points that you would be sharing with your patients about how to support their immune health during COVID and any other time, really. So when you have one piece of content, you could be using it as a direct mailing piece. You could be using it as an email. You could be using it in your social media channels, telehealth, virtual healthcare classes, online training, lead generation, and patient handouts. Okay, so one of the things that I mentioned too earlier is just because your practice is closed and just because you're not literally in your clinic right now treating patients, don't let them forget about you, okay? One of the things that's really important is to make sure that you stay in top of mind awareness. And by doing that, you're putting things out in front of them, whether you're putting out social media sharing images like we've got here, or you're using Canva to put together your own social media images, or you've got other content that you have that is that you're putting out about immune health or acupressure points. Don't lose sight, don't let your patients lose sight of who you are and that you're actually still there. Each of you should be doing some mailing to your patients on a regular basis, okay? And I've got something here. Where did it go? I don't know where it is right now. But there's certain levels of engagement that you should be happening with your patients right now. You should be engaging your patients on email. You should be engaging your patients with social media. You should be engaging your patients with phone calls to check in on them. You should also be doing some online trainings. How many of you don't mind being in front of a camera and teaching? I'd be curious. In the chat box, just let me know. Like, raise your hand and be like, I don't mind, okay? Or if it's the last thing you ever want to do, just put it in there. It's the last thing I ever want to do, okay? Because I'm just curious, because if those of you who are interested in teaching classes online, there are so many different things that you could be teaching them, okay? Acupressure being one of them. Diet, nutrition could be one of them. Healing sounds for each of the meridians. Montauk Chia has an amazing book out there called Transforming Stress into Vitality. And there's the 6 healing sounds breathing exercises that you could be incorporating as part of your class. And they're super, super amazing. And I would really encourage you guys to check out that book. If any of you want to teach some classes, because that's an exercise you could be sharing with your patients. And step 6 is how to promote your telehealth services. So you promote your telehealth services on email, via your website, newsletter, on all printed materials, and on your social media pages. Ask your current patients if they're interested in trying a telehealth session. Call your existing patients and host a Facebook Live event, okay? And if your website right now does not have a tagline on the top of it that says, COVID policies, we are not in practice right now, but we are doing telehealth, click here to schedule your appointment. Your website right now should have something that mentions, that you're offering telehealth sessions right now. So telehealth should be all over your website. So if I was to land on your website right now, I would be able to determine what your offerings are, okay? If it doesn't, please get that updated. And for those of you that are interested, we build websites for acupuncturists. And if any of you want a free website evaluation, I don't know, I'll send a bunch of links to Natalia that you could send out to them. And also, if any of you are interested, you could just reach me at Jeffery@acupuncturemediaworks.com for anything that we're talking about. and I'll share my email address with you at the end over here. But if you're interested in any of the things that I'm talking about, feel free to reach out to me. And a few final words is, make weekly calls to your A-list, okay? And send out weekly emails about telehealth and what you are now offering. And one of the things create posts that are 3 to 4 posts weekly about your telehealth classes, create weekly videos about your offerings, be consistent, okay? And one of the other things too is to have a list of what you want to offer for your patients, okay? Like brainstorm what it is that you can offer for your patients in that respect. And that's one of the things that we work on in this mentoring group. Actually, we start a new group tomorrow's the 19th, I think it is, Tuesday. Yeah, so tomorrow we start a whole new mentoring group, and if anyone's interested in any of that, reach out to me like today, and I'll reach out to you and let you know more about that. But that's all I have to share with you today. If you have any questions, I'm totally willing to take questions. This is my email address over here, jeffrey@acupuncturemediaworks.com. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'm going to come back right here. Are there any questions or any comments? Some of you have created a private Facebook group for your patients and been very successful in keeping them updated close to you. That's awesome. Good for you, Christy. That's fantastic to hear. That's actually the first I've heard about creating a private Facebook group. So congratulations. I imagine that you are following HIPAA guidelines and not talking about, oh, John, how's your back pain? Thanks for joining the group. How's your migraines doing? So that's the only thing I would comment on, is just make sure that if you're doing something like that, which I think is a great idea, that you are remaining HIPAA compliant on that way. Ricardo, you don't mind teaching. That's so great. I encourage you to do teaching for sure. Absolutely. Yintang, GB20, large intestine 4. Yep. Ricardo, that's what I would share with my patients as well. Interested in gathering info for assessment. Not sure what you mean by that, Brooks. So just if you can elaborate, that would be great.
I think that's regarding like how to do tongue diagnosis and pulse and other things. I know that many acupuncturists palpate for diagnosis and assessment. Yeah. So
sure. Well, I know that you can, with good lighting, you can do a differential diagnosis on their tongue. You're not going to be able to palpate in that way, but what you'll have to get really good at questioning, right? So this is when your questioning procedures will be really important, is to get down to the nitty-gritty by asking a lot of really good questions in that way, because you're not going to be able to have that tactility. One thing so my wife is a body worker. She's a somatic integrator, and she started doing distant healing with tuning forks. She's been working with tuning forks for the last 5-6 years, but she started doing distant healing with tuning forks. And that's something that I think each and every one of you should consider about, is how can you pivot your practice for now and into the future? Because I don't think COVID is gone forever. I don't think this is just a one and done thing. I think that we will need to figure out ways to pivot the practice in order to, abide by these things that are going to be coming around slowly over time. And one way to do that is to get more efficient about, teaching, set up a few protocols that you're willing to teach on, come up with specific offerings that you are able to offer. EFT and tapping is really great. Breathing, meditation is really great. But as far as your diagnoses go, I think you're gonna have to sort of bridge that gap between being able to touch people to being able to get the information out of them verbally in that way.
that's really great. I've heard, I don't know if many of you are familiar with a teacher called Galina Rufner. I'm sure that you've heard of her, Jeffrey. She is an acupuncturist at the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio. And she has been teaching telemedicine for a bit, or at least she's been practicing it with her patients. And one really great trick for tongue diagnosis is to have your patients print out like a red color block, because usually printers tend to have the same type of ink. So then when you are doing your ritual with your patient, you have them hold up the red color near their mouth and then have them stick out their tongue. And then you can reference the color, because through camera, there's all these different tones. And so you can use that to help give you a better idea. And then you yourself print out the red color block as well. And so you can kind of gauge exactly what the tongue actually looks like. And then there's also, if they wear a smartwatch, many smartwatches take the pulse. So learning how to read those watches with the pulse is also a good way. Like if it's fast, they have a rapid one. And then there's other pulse machines. I can't think of the name exactly, but the people put their fingers onto the little device, and it's about $100 or more. I think the least expensive one is about $100. And so it reads the pulse and it gives you a visual of the pulse. And there's, again, Galina wrote a book on how to translate that in regards to rapid, wiry, slippery, all those things. So there are resources and ways that you can do that. I personally have my patients take a picture out in the sun or with the mirror, the vanity mirror light, and that helps me gauge what their tongue looks like. But that was a really great question, and I know that many people struggle with that, and it does require some creativity and a different way of practicing. And it's a little bit uncomfortable at the beginning as you start getting used to it, but then after a while you'll get the hang of it.
Yeah, I mean, because we're so used to, we're very tactile people in general. I mean, we became acupuncturists because we love using our fingers and our hands, and that's all we do every day with needles. And so it's just really hard for us to kind of break away from any of that. But I know Accugraph is an interesting tool to use, and although I don't know how that would be used, unless Adrian comes up with some type of distance, some type of probe. It's actually it's a good tool, but it's not able to be used in telehealth types of settings at this moment. But yeah, I mean, even oximeters, oximeters are good, especially, I don't know if you guys have heard about them, but apparently they're good for with COVID. Apparently, like if your oxygen levels go below a certain number, then you might want to call the doctor, but it also does give you a pulse readout as well.
Yeah.
And they're only like $35 for something like that on Amazon. But I mean, it's a good way to kind of to as much as possible to get diagnoses. I know that other acupuncturists were having their patients palpate the assure point on themselves and be like, oh, ow, is that tender? Is it okay? Press that point. Oh, it's a little bit below your rib over there, or whatever it is, and palpate that. I don't know how, I wouldn't trust that entirely in my practice, because I'm not really there getting the full feedback around that. I think tongue, again, that's why lighting would be really important in that way. Maybe even people might even have like a pen light, something that they can, shine on their tongue. Again, but it's going to change. Like this changes, this is a little blue, right? So it's changing the color of me as well. So it's going to be hard to make those differential diagnoses in that way entirely. And I think questioning will be really important piece of that for sure, to get really clear in your mad detective questioning skills.
Yeah, I like how you put that. There's another question that came up. What are some creative telehealth treatment options that we can give our patients. And I think you went over that a little bit.
So wait, we'll start. What are some what?
Creative telehealth treatment options that we can give our patients.
Yeah, well, I think hosting a class or even telehealth sessions, what's on top of mind awareness for people? Immunity, right? So
Yeah.
if you could show patients how to support their immune system, would be really like the top thing. I think immunity support, stress and anxiety support, sleep support would be really great. I think you could even, I know a lot of practitioners are doing herbal diagnosis or herbal preparation and getting them prepped and shipped out to them. So there's a lot of, most herb companies now are prepping herbs and formulas and shipping them out. So I think herbal consultations are really important. Again, Montauk Chia's book, Transforming Stress into Vitality, is a great book that you could tap into. The 6 healing sounds. And the 6 healing sounds there's one healing sound for each of the meridians. For those of you that are not familiar with it, it's a really great resource out there. Type in Transforming Stress into Vitality or Montauk Chia, 6 healing sounds, and you'll come across pages of information of just literally just the different, techniques of, what's the posture, how do you sit, how do you hold your hands, what's the breathing sound that happens. And I used these healing sounds in my clinic on the treatment table. Let's say I was working with people who had a lung imbalance, I would be working with the lung sound. Spleen imbalance, I would be working with the spleen sound as they were on the treatment table. I would leave the room, put the needles in, leave the room, and I would teach them a sound, and they would work on that sound while the treatment was happening, to kind of add that extra benefit to it. So that stuff works in and out of being actually physically in the clinic in that way.
Yeah, that's great. So for those of you, if you haven't checked out the chat box, I've been adding those links, and I just wrote the title of the book in there for you. Jeffrey also shared a link on product resources, and he just wrote the name of the author. Great, because I had no idea how to write that name. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, I did share when you were talking about insurance codes. We have one of our business partners for Fasoma shared with us a PDF of different insurance codes. So I also wrote that in to the chat box. And you guys, if you do bill insurance, or you don't bill insurance, but you want to keep up with the language, and that's how you do your note taking, this is a really great PDF form. And we also have on the Fasoma website, if you do fasoma.org/COVID-19, there is a huge pool of resources from insurance, and the ASA has provided really great information. CSOMA has also done an infection control guideline. We did one. We're in Florida, a lot of people are reopening. We luckily weren't told by our state that we had to close, but still a lot of people chose to close, and now we're reopening with the CDC and the WHO guidelines, and we did a video on that, and we also have a PDF doc that you guys can download, and there's a checklist as well. And I think, like you said, the AAC paired up with the ASA, and there is a 2 new documents that they recommend you have your patients, if you're going to start seeing them rather virtually or in person, to have them fill out, and they're really great questionnaires as well. Mm-hmm. So you guys have a lot of resources that you can use. Let's see, someone mentioned United Practice as a good EHR. Yeah, United is really good. JNAP, Opti Mantra is amazing. I use actually Practice Better, who has the HIPAA video compliant already installed, and that's super easy. My patients don't have to download it. Doxy.me, like Jeffrey said, is incredibly easy and amazing, and a lot of medical practitioners that have been doing telemedicine prior to the pandemic all have really great reviews about Doxy.me. And yeah, do you guys have any more questions? This is your time. If you want to brainstorm something, if you have an idea of how you've been, something that you want to play around with and you want some feedback from Jeffrey, please type it in. Jeffrey does, like you mentioned, he does websites for acupuncturists, and he has something really cool where if you submit your website, he'll do a check on it for you. And just to make sure that you are, you have everything that you need to, at least on your homepage, and following HIPAA guidelines, which is also really important.
I'll grab that link and stick that in the chat box here.
Perfect.
Yeah, those of you that have websites and you want a free website evaluation, my team can do that for you. Yep, and here's June.
Oh,
happy to make everyone happy.
Her name is June?
Her name is June, yeah.
Oh, nice. My birthday is in June.
Oh, mine too.
Really? What?
June 9th.
You're Gemini.
Oh, yeah.
I'm June 27th.
Are you not a Gemini?
Full Cancer. Full water baby. All right, guys. Well, I guess that's a wrap. Please look at the chat box, save all those links. This webinar is being recorded. We are going to upload it to our YouTube channel. And when you're there, check it out. We have some amazing webinars from Jeffrey from last year. He's been collaborating with us since last year. We have the infection control live talk presentation that our Vice President David Bibby did. We have a bunch of resources there that are just free. They're easy to understand, and we include the Q&A sections into it as well. And Jeffrey's going to send me the PDF and these links as well, and we are going to upload them on our website and our resource page, so you guys can just easily hop on to our website, click, and download. All right, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for your questions. They're all really great questions. And Jeffrey, always a pleasure to have you on and for you to share your knowledge and expertise with us. So thank you so much. Thanks for having
me. I appreciate it. And we'll see you sometime in June. We're going to do a webinar on MD referrals.
Yes, you guys don't want to miss that. All right. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Good night.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Thanks, Natalia. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.